'Tis the season for gingerbread. I love all things gingerbread in the cold months. The spices and the molasses just warm my soul. I love it. From ginger molasses cookies, gingerbread men, all the way to gingerbread scones, and what we're making today, just plain old gingerbread. This recipe will make for you rather about 14 to 15 large muffins or one large loaf. You can choose. So what I'm going to show you today is a dozen large muffins and then one small loaf. That's an option for you as well. I personally, when I do muffins or cupcakes, I want them big. I don't like them small. So if you do want them on the smaller side, you can probably get 2 dozen muffins from this recipe. Now, depending on whether or not you're doing muffins or a loaf, the one major thing that will change is the temperature of your oven and your baking time. For the muffins, in order to get the high dome on top, we need to start with a really high heat of 425, and we're going to bake them at that temperature for a few minutes and then drop the temperature for the remainder of the baking time. Now, if you're going to do a loaf, you'll want to set your oven to 375 and bake for probably close to 50 minutes, 60 minutes. All right. So those are the 2 differences that you need to pay attention with this recipe. One more tip for you before I show you the list of ingredients. I personally really want my ginger products to be filled with ginger and allspice. I want the flavors. I want the warm spices to be prominent in those items that I make, whatever I make with them. So in my recipes, you will find if you compare them to other people's, that I use double to triple the amount of spices compared to the average recipe. And I do that on purpose because I want that flavor and that warmth there. If you have a very sensitive palate and you do not care for as much spice as myself, just half the spices. But if you do like the flavor, enjoy big heaping teaspoons or tablespoons, if that's what the recipe that I make calls for, of these spices, and you will enjoy the flavor. And in all honesty, everyone who I make specifically ginger molasses and gingerbread men for, they love that the ginger is so prominent. Right? It's in the name. You should be tasting it, right? Anyways, that's just my opinion. That's my palate. If you want to try it out, I highly recommend using the amount of spices that I'm about to show you. But if not, just half it. Well, with that said, here are the list of ingredients that you are going to need for this gingerbread recipe. Because we are not using oil in this recipe, we're using butter. You will need a stand or hand mixer, a spatula. For the sugars, it'll be 3/4 a cup of brown sugar and molasses. For the flour, 3 cups and a half. So 3.5 cups of flour, 3/4 a cup of softened butter. For the milk, it is 1.5 cups. Baking powder is 2 teaspoons, a teaspoon and a half of baking soda, 3 large eggs. Ginger is 3 large teaspoons, 1 large teaspoon of allspice. Then for the end, once it's all baked, if you choose, which I highly recommend because it looks beautiful, some icing sugar. You can rather sprinkle it on with your hands, or it's much easier if you have like a fine sift like this. All right, and then if you're making muffins, a dozen at least, okay, or a dozen and a few. So depending on your pans, you can give 2. You just set 2 up. I highly recommend parchment paper liners because they come off really easily. They do not stick at all. And if you're doing a loaf, you're going to need a large cake pan, pretty much, okay? Because I am doing a small one. This is just a 6-inch loaf pan or cake pan, and also it's rather use flour and butter to so it doesn't stick, or some parchment paper. All right, that's it. Because I'm doing cupcakes, I'm going to preheat my oven to 425. If you're doing the loaf, 375. I forgot one thing, a bowl to put the dry ingredients into. All right, let's start off with getting our dry ingredients ready. We will start off with the flour. First things first, we'll just fluff the flour up and then shake it into our 1 cup measuring cup. Once it's full, we'll just level it off. All right. That's our 3.5 cups of flour. Okay, next up is the baking soda. 1.5 teaspoons. Put that away a little too soon. And then 2 teaspoons of the baking powder. All right, spices, here's where it gets fun. 3 large teaspoons of ginger, that's 1, 2, 3. And then 1 large of allspice. So yummy. Okay, let's just give that a stir so the ingredients are well combined. So if you do not use salted butter, I would add a bit of salt to this mixture, but because I only ever use salted, I do not add salt to my recipes. All right, we're gonna put that aside and get going with our buttered mixture. In our mixing bowl, we will add our 3/4 cup of salted butter that's softened, 3/4 of packed brown sugar, and 3/4 cup of molasses. Oops, there we go. It's always hard to do it with a camera. It is quite a skill. All right, we're gonna blend this up till it's nice and fluffy. So it'll probably take about 3 to 5 minutes. Make sure you scrape the bowl down at least once through this process, just so that no butter is stuck on the sides. So everything is blended nicely. Once it's nice and creamy and has changed colors a little bit, like it's lightened up because it's fluffy, we are going to add our eggs 1 at a time. We'll just beat these up a few, like about a minute each. Give the bowl a good scrape down as well in between your eggs. Last but not least, egg number 3. Next up, we are going to alternate the flour mixture and the milk into the molasses butter mixture. So we'll do it in thirds. So a third of this approximately, a third of milk. All right, and just alternate back and forth. Just make sure to, especially if you have a stand mixer, that you pulse it at first so the flour doesn't go everywhere. Once you see the flour mixture is well incorporated, that's when you add your milk. next part is super simple. If you're doing a loaf, you just pour the batter in to the prepared pan, which is really nice because this is a really runny mixture. So and if you're doing muffins like myself, you can use a large spoon. A piping bag even would probably be the easiest. I'm going to use my measuring cup that I used to put the milk into the batter with and pour it in. This is not the cleanest method, but it works. Ah. And then just clean off any mess so it doesn't burn on your pan. All right, so there are the dozen muffins. Now for the loaf, I'm just gonna simply put the remaining batter into the pan and bake like that. I'm gonna try to smooth it out a little bit. And then I'll cut off the excess parchment paper. I'm going to bake these in the oven at the exact same time. The small loaf is going to go on the bottom, the muffins are going to go on the top because the muffins are going to get really tall. And we are going to bake these at 425. Where's my timer? There it is. For 7 minutes, and then we'll drop the temperature. Once that initial bake is over, you're just going to now drop your temperature to 375, and then look how much the temperature drops, hey, in convection ovens. And then you're going to bake them again for another 13 minutes approximately until the toothpick comes out clean from the middle muffin. Once they are done, just take them out of the oven and let them cool for a few minutes before removing them from the pans. Boy, I wish you could smell the kitchen. It smells so good. All right, there's only one more thing now to do, and that is to top off the gingerbread with some icing sugar. It just looks really pretty. This, of course, is optional. Now, what I find that works best is to top them off once while they're cooling and then a second time when they're fully cooled. And that just makes everything stick well. And then I like to use a spoon with a sift. Kind of just helps control the amount that goes on. So pretty and festive. Nope. That one got a little extra. Let's just see what we can do about that. Just see. There it goes. Just tap some off. Oh, wow. Some extra snow. All right, that's it for the first round. And then I'm just going to give them a little more icing sugar once they fully cooled. Actually didn't need to do a second dusting today. It must not be as much moisture in the air as normal here, so just one was fine. Normally I do have to do two. So here is the gingerbread. So delicious. And the parchment paper, like I said earlier, comes off really easily. The last time I made these, the tops were a little bit higher, so I think I probably just put more batter into the muffin tins than I did this time. So I have a little bit of a larger loaf. Play around with it if you want really high ones. Yeah, maybe just fill it right to the top of the tin versus the top of the wrapping paper like I did, because last time I made them, they were probably about that much higher. Anyways, they're still gonna be good and beautiful and delicious. And here is a piece of the loaf that I just cut off. See if I can get in well so you can see the crumb. It's just a beautiful, moist gingerbread. Well, I really do hope that you will try out this recipe. It will fill your home with the most beautiful aroma, and it will fill your tummy with warmth. It's so good. And I'm sure that if you give it a try, it will become a family favorite. Thank you so much for watching this baking vlog. I hope that you enjoy it. Please leave any comments below if you have any questions, or let me know if you give it a try, and come back soon to see what I'm baking up next. Bye everyone.